Get that out of the pocket. Right. Welcome everybody to the extraordinary full council meeting, including members, officers and any members of the public who may be attending remotely. Please be advised that this meeting will be live streamed and data collected during the recording of the meeting will be retained in accordance with the Council's data retention policy. The recording of the meeting may be added to the Council's website. The following staff are in attendance: Larissa Reid, the Chief Exec, Robin Harris, the Monitoring Officer, Joe Millard from Democratic Services, Democratic and Electoral Services Manager. Oh, nice long title now. Agenda item 1 is the evacuation procedure. You know where the fire exits are. There's no scheduled drill. If it does go off, out you go and don't come back in until you're told to by the chief. Anyone that requires assistance, indicate now. Excellent. We can go to agenda item 2. I'll invite the Chief Exec to give apologies for absence, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We have received apologies from Councillors Carnell, Roger Clark, Simon Clark, Golding, Perkin, Shield and Speed, and the following councillors are online. Councillors Speed, Golding, Whiting and Neil, and they will not be able to vote on any items. Sorry.
Thank you. I believe Councillor Bowen, I can see that Councillor Booth is online.
Thank you, that's what I was going to say.
Sorry, apologies.
Any others, members? Excellent. We can move on to agenda item 3, declarations of interest. Does anyone have any items to declare on the agenda items before us tonight?
Sorry, Mr Mayor, before, just realised also I don't think we set out Councillor Leanne Moore as well, and apologies for not giving you apologies.
Aye.
Sorry, I'll be quiet for a minute.
Anyone have anything to declare interests-wise? Wunderbar. So agenda item 4 is a local government review, which we've just had the briefing on. The first 2 items on the agenda this evening are the local government review. There was a briefing for all members prior to this meeting, which gave members the opportunity for clarification and to ask questions. Please can members confirm that they have seen the report and the appendices? Yes. Wonderful. I invite the leader to introduce the report and propose the recommendations. Councillor T. Gibson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of the report is to set out and explain the contents of the English Devolution White Paper and the invitation from the government to submit a proposal for local government reorganisation. There are 5 recommendations, and I shan't take your time by verbalising them here. They're all in the documents that's been circulated, and thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Councillor T. Gibson. I invite Councillor Wise to second and ask whether he wishes to speak now or reserve his right.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I second the recommendations and I reserve my right. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you very much. Councillor Bowen, I invite you to speak on them.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So I'll try to be brief. The proposed devolution local government reorganisation for us and the other good folk of Kent feels at the moment like it's a bit like trying to rearrange deck chairs on the Titanic, except we're still debating how many decks we even have. The government wants us to submit a proposal, but so far Kent councils seem about as united as a cat herding contest, but I do understand why. The big debate is over how many unitary authorities we should have. 3 or 4 probably. The 3 unitary model is perhaps looking like the best financial deal, delivering an estimated 9.3 million in annual savings. Meanwhile, the 4 unitary models promise, well, more costs, more complexity and a bit of a headache. It's like choosing between a sturdy 3-legged stool and a 4-legged one, where one stool keeps wobbling. On governance, bigger unitary authorities might bring efficiency, but they could also make residents feel like they're shouting into the void when they need support. On the flip side, smaller unitary councils could be more community focused, but at the cost of higher administration expenses. And let's be honest, Swale is sitting right in the middle of this political game of Twister, trying not to get its legs stuck in an awkward position. Then there's the issue of money. The government says transition funds will be available, but so far those details are about as foggy or as clear as a foggy morning on the Isle of Sheppey. And don't even get me started on how health, education and planning partnerships will be affected. We're basically trying to solve a Rubik's Cube blindfolded, but we must be moving the parts in the hope that later on we will solve this puzzle. Given all this uncertainty, the recommended decision to avoid signing up for specific geographies or financial commitments right now is probably the smartest move. A good negotiation is you don't show your hand too soon. Like I think most of us, I have my own views, but they aren't for a public meeting at this time. However, staying engaged is crucial. Otherwise, we risk waking up one day to find out we've been lumped into a new authority we didn't even know existed. The final proposal needs to focus on sustainable services, financial viability, and making sure local democracy doesn't get lost in the shuffle. In short, let's make sure we don't accidentally vote ourselves into a bureaucratic soap opera, as that could lead us to a crossroads towards the East Enders of Kent and potentially a dynasty situation in the future of local government. I make no apology for the puns. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bowen. Councillor Baldock, would you like to?
I'm sorry, I don't have any good puns or jokes, so... Apart from the fact, of course, this is a joke, except that it's not a very good joke. It is profoundly undemocratic. It is going to destroy the link between local communities and their local council. I struggle to see why we are rushing ahead with this faster than we need to. Other areas are going at a slower pace. I think to see what happens with the first tranche of councils to go and see what lessons can be learnt would be useful. If this goes ahead, it's going to be probably in place for the next 50 to 60 years. We don't really want to get something that's naff. So I really think we should be taking our time and getting it right rather than begging to go forward as quickly as possible. I also feel if we are going to sign this letter, and I have a feeling that the mood of the council is to sign it, I doubt it will be unanimous, I think we should be giving consideration to a side letter. We should be indicating our preference. The fact that some councils are going forward indicating that they want a 3 unitary model, that's not collegiate. That's not working together. So it all shows already this idea of us putting in a single proposal across Kent is out the water. So I do think we should be considering putting forward a side letter saying, if this goes ahead, this is our preferred option. We want 4, and sorry, I disagree with the previous speaker. I think 4 is more democratic. I think 4 has the potential for better partners than 3. I think the 3 model really does put us in a poor position. I think there are benefits for going with Ashford and Maidstone, or Ashford and Folkestone, or Ashford, Folkestone and Maidstone. I think those options are better, and I think we should be saying so. I think we should be putting on the table where we would like to go, because other people are already doing it, and we'll be left behind. We're being told we've got to jump on this rush to devolution so we don't get left behind, and the first thing we're doing is getting left behind. Others are already putting something else in. So I don't know, this has only come up today, so I don't know if I can propose an amendment. I don't want to propose an amendment yet because I want other people to get the chance to speak, but I would like to propose an amendment later that we consider putting in a side letter outlining any preferences that we might be able to come to tonight, which may not be possible. But I really don't think we should just sign up and let others take the lead.
Point of clarification, Mr. Mayor, I did not say that a smaller unit authority would be less democratic. I did not say that at all. What I said was, on the flip side, smaller unitary councils could be more community focused, but at the cost of higher administration expenses.
No, I didn't disagree with you. I wasn't disagreeing with you. I think you maybe misheard me, as I probably misheard you.
Thanks, chaps. Right, our next one is going to be Councillor Palmer, please.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have some grave concerns about this going ahead. I think the problem with all this is it's being rushed through. I do appreciate the briefing that we had before. It did make some things clearer. But I think when you rush something through, it came out in December, had to make decisions. I think we haven't got all the details. We're not too sure what the government's going to fund, and the devil will be in the detail. However, I think we do have to progress with the recommendations as laid tonight, and perhaps as an amendment that might come forward. But I think the public are a bit concerned about it when they've realised, and they have concerns of what's going to happen with debt, what's going to happen with how it's all going to shape up. I think there's a missed opportunity by the government in that they could have looked at the reorganisation and combined social services and health and changed the borders completely to fit in to more collegiate health and social care, because it's the health and social care for the county council which is a big burden. And if there was more joined up thinking on that with health and social care, then I think there would be big savings. And that's one of the things that the government, I think, has missed in this. But what is on the table and what is offered by the government isn't the best, and I don't think it's going to work for the people. But if we're not in the room making the decisions or having an input, then I think we won't finish up with a very, very good deal ourselves. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Palmer. I now call on Councillor Charles Gibson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Only very brief. There's not a great deal to add. I agree with all that's been said. We should support this this proposal to keep our voice in the room and our seat at the table. If I might extend Councillor Bowen's cards analogy, perhaps beyond its reasoning, there are 14 different hands on this set of cards, and 7 of them have already tipped it to the government. So the ship has well and truly sailed on that front. So it is my group's view that we should sign the letter with the maps and the data in. We are discussing those geographies. We may not agree on them yet in this chamber or with our colleagues, but those are the geographies and the numbers we're discussing, and I think it's entirely appropriate that we tell the government that and share that information with them, as many of our colleagues already are. And whilst I agreed with a great deal of what Councillor Baldock said, I have to disagree that we are rushing. The deadline is Friday. We could hardly be cutting it any closer to the bone, but I will look forward to the debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Councillor Lehman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Much of what I'm going to say is what I prepared for the KCC full council meeting last week. Sadly, the chairman, for reasons I'll probably never know, declined to invite me to speak, despite my name being down on the list. So being true to my party allegiance, I've decided to recycle, possibly even upcycle, what I didn't get to say at County Hall. Although comparatively things have slowed down a little for Kent now in terms of devolution, we are, like every other two-tier area, still on the unitarisation train, with no clear timetable of when we'll arrive and a lack of clarity on where exactly we're going and how much say we'll have in where we'll end up. In their promotional materials, the government repeatedly used the word unlock when describing access to devolution and local government reorganisation. In this context, unlock is clearly intended to invoke the feeling that we're gaining access to some prized chalice, rather than something that the majority of the Kent voting public and probably the majority of councillors don't want. This is evidenced by the fact that a survey undertaken by YouGov in December showed that 49% of voters in the south of England considered their local councils to be the right size, with just 6% thinking their council was too small. And when areas have been given the opportunity to vote on whether or not to have a mayor, many have voted against, and often those wishes have not been respected. Labour's devolution plans appear to be driven by desperation rather than genuine reform, aiming to prop up an economic model that is failing communities while neglecting environmental sustainability. Rather than empowering local councils, these plans weaken local decision-making and strip communities of their voice, something we have first-hand evidence of by the fact that we had last night's Environment Committee meeting, or Environment Committee meeting in the committee room rather than in this chamber, because decisions are already being taken away from us and more will do if we have a mayor. If Labour were serious about devolution, they would focus on meaningful reforms, investing in local government, overhauling council funding mechanisms, replacing regressive council tax systems, addressing the crisis in social care, and encouraging more individuals to step forward as councillors to represent their communities. Instead, Labour's approach is dismantling local democracy by reducing the number of locally elected representatives, a stark contrast to most Western countries, where there are already significantly more councillors per capita and smaller, more responsive local authorities. What we're being offered can only be described as managed decline. By pursuing reorganisation under the guise of efficiency savings, they are effectively cutting investment in communities even further. This approach prioritises short-term financial gains over the long-term health and vitality of local governance. The insistence on finding elusive efficiency savings through forced reorganisation ignores the reality that such measures often result in diminished services and weakened community ties. The consequences of these plans are far-reaching. Fewer voices advocating for local priorities, reduced accountability, and a growing disconnect between government and the people it serves. It's imperative to challenge this trajectory and advocate for a vision of devolution that truly empowers communities rather than undermining them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lehman. Are there any other members that wish to speak? I've got Councillor Hunt.
Thank you. I agree with what's been put forward to us tonight and recommend it. I think it is the right approach to be taken. I don't think it's being rushed at all. I think if anything was going to be rushed is us making a decision tonight about what option we would like to go down and how we would like that to see. I think we need a lot more work to be done and looking to see what our options are, who we can go in with and what the implications are. So I think with us saying that we're not going to be putting forward that option at the moment is the right thing to do. We shouldn't just be sitting back and we need to be showing that we are looking at this, going forward with something, and start working on it, a plan of what we can do as a council, what's going to be best for us and the residents, and then take it from there. So I agree with everything that is come forward tonight and happy to go along with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hunt. I have then got Councillor Harrison.
Thank you. Concur. I would not support a side letter. I don't know what I would support in terms of option 1, 2, 3 to 63. We could sit here for the next 36 hours literally and we would not come up with something which we could all agree with. So, you know, this is the right approach. It's saying, yeah, we want to keep our hat in the ring, but we haven't worked out what yet, and we've got quite a few months going forward before we do that. And what sprung to mind was from my childhood, well, if she stuck her head in the gas oven, would you want to stick yours in? Oh, all right. I hope going forward, I thought the briefing before this meeting was extremely useful. Thank you very much, Larissa. But all these things do take time and effort. I know that. But going forward, it is very important that we do have regular, I know party leaders got their feet under the table, but I think it's important that all members get the opportunity to ask the questions and to be involved going forward, because at the end of the day, there will be presumably one option that 47 of us have got to put our hand up, or majority of 47 of us have got to put our hand up to support going forward. So it is very important that we get the opportunity. I know some people won't take it, but we've got to offer the opportunity to them. So I'm very, very comfortable with what's before us tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Harrison. I've then got Councillor Bonney.
Thank you. I think you should be careful what you sign up to, quite honestly. If you don't really understand it, you're signing your life away. I'll just have a quick flick. Yeah, I absolutely loathe to go in with Medway. It doesn't share the identity or values that my residents would have as a local authority. And if they talk about then sorting out later boundaries for healthcare, that's absolutely the last place on earth I would go. And that's down to my residents' experience and mine, quite frankly. So, yeah, that's my take on it. So, sorry? Lib Dems.
No, it was the Lib Dems.
Right, so seconding Lib Dems then, was it?
Proposal. Yeah.
Proposal.
Amendment.
The amendment, yeah.
Right, we're moving to the amendment there. Can we just have that reconfirmed so that everyone knows what they're talking about?
So I am proposing that we reverse the item in the agenda, which is option 3. So we do sign up to the supplementary document that includes those maps and figures, because those are the maps and figures we are discussing. There are still 4 options. I agree wholeheartedly with Councillor Harrison. I do not believe we have a majority for any of those 4 options in this chamber, but it is right that we say those are our 4 options. Thank you.
So to clarify, it's removing the word not.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Baldock?
Yeah, I'd like to thank the Lib Dem group for proposing that and for my colleague for seconding it. I think it is sensible that we are putting forward, they are the only serious rational options. 2 of them are pants, 2 of them are good. That gives us 50-50. Well, one's pants, one's tolerable, 2 are good. It gives us it puts them on the table. It says that we are interested in them. It gives us the opportunity to build on those proposals. So I doubt we're going to come up with anything that's not one of those 4. So why delay? If we're going to do this, do it properly and put our name to this the secondary letter that says the geographic details, because frankly they contain our best options, and I think the 4 of them are the only options which can go forward. So, let's be in the room. If we're going to be in the room, let's not be half in, half out.
Councillor Lehman on the amendment? Is it on the amendment? No. So I've still got you down for the substantial, but we do need to do the amendment first. Councillor Booth, are you on the amendment or are you just on the original?
I'm on the original, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, I'll come back to you when we're back to the substantive. Did you want to go on?
Am I ready to go now? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to be a little bit cheeky and finish my speech because it was all negative up until the final paragraph, and the final paragraph was what I think of the actual thing in the paper. This all being said, I'm fairly pleased with Kent's draft submission. I'm glad that many of the questions which have come up repeatedly in conversations I've had on this topic are included, and I hope that any response from government to this submission will be clearer than any of the output we've received so far, and not simply peppered with buzzwords about local leaders taking back control and unlocking democratic deficits. Then, in response to the amendment, I do not support the amendment. I think that there are other options which aren't in these 4, most notably the one that I've mentioned at the end of the briefing, Swale, Ashford and Canterbury seems to me to be a very viable option which I would like to see considered alongside those 4. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Baldock. Councillor Lehman. I've then got Councillor Bowen, I think, on the list.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Similar to Councillor Lehman, I can't support the amendment. I think we've been a bit naive to a degree if we think that these proposals aren't being looked at by everybody else anyway. The fact that we're not saying, yes, we will sign up to these and then put our cards on the table, is naive. It's out there. Other councils are going to be looking at exactly these documents, but they're not saying, this is what it's got to be. And as Councillor Lehman just said, somebody may have a moment of inspiration and think, actually, why did we not think about that? But if we've already nailed our colours to the mast, we're not doing ourselves any favours. So on that reason, because it doesn't serve, for me, any purpose, so I won't be supporting that. Thank you.
Anyone else on the amendment? Councillor Paul Stephen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with the amendment totally. I don't think we should be left out. I think we should make sure that all the other councils in Kent are aware of our intentions or the options. We don't want to be left out. We don't want any other options coming in. And by not signing, I don't think we've got a foot to stand on. I think we need to be positive, need to let them know that, yeah, we're happy with one of these four, and that by not signing, it makes us look indecisive, and I don't think that's good in this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone further on the amendment? No. Councillor Hunt?
Can I just get a clarification on it? That if we signed that up to the 4, and then suddenly through discussions we thought actually there is a better option, have we got any possibility to get that other option in?
That sounds like a clarification from the Chief Exec.
So what the signing is our current possible options for unitary government in Kent, and information which is all financial population, that information, the financial analysis, an initial options analysis, and against the MHCLG criteria and our the geographical design principles. This is not excluding us from doing anything else. What will exclude us from doing anything else is the 28th of November. So what this is saying to government is, you've given us a list of criteria. This is what we've come up with so far for the list of criteria. This is what we think is the art of the possible. What it doesn't say is we're not going to look at anything else. What has happened so far is it's been a coalition of the willing. People have said, I'm happy to do this, this and this, and I'm happy to do this, this and this. We haven't had the conversations, as far as I'm aware, with Ashford, Canterbury and Swale on that option. We haven't done any of the modelling. What this says is, this sort of answers the exam question as far as we're able to. So it's not saying this is the only one we're doing. This is saying this is what we're looking at currently. Some councils have said, we don't want to even go that far. We're just going to say that we're happy, that we're prepared to do the work. The councils that are signing this are basically answering the exam question more fully by saying this is where we are now. We're not saying you are able to add different. What the deadline for the proper business case of what you actually want to put forward is the 28th of November, and that is a statutory deadline. I hope that clarifies it. Thank you.
So if there's no one else on the amendment, we'll go to the vote. So those in favour of the amendment to remove the word not from number 3? Those against?
Yeah, we've got you. Thank you.
No.
Abstentions. James is going to abstain.
Any abstentions? So that amendment has fallen. So we're going back to the substantive as it was. And the next councillor I had for the debate was Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My point's been already answered. Thank you.
Excellent. And then my next one is Councillor Booth from the Ether.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's always interesting to hear a lot of the dialogue behind a situation that this council, as have many other councils in Kent, been posed. The posing of the question, do you want it or do you not? I think to echo some of the previous commentary, we have to be in the discussions, we have to be in the mix to tailor and put a final line under where we want to go and how we want to see this. So to come back to those comments made earlier, I don't believe we're being pushed into a situation other than the absolute obvious of being pushed into a situation. And that's a very scary proposition, not only for every councillor gathered today, but also to the officers of this council. And I would ask a question, if I can, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the leader of this council, as to number one, what we must ensure for every taxpayer of this borough is continuity of service. That no services that this council is currently providing will fall by the wayside, because let's not forget, there is going to be a huge amount of work necessary by members and by those senior officers that remain at Swale Borough Council to get this over the line. That might sound a little bit dark and dismal. I think it is, but there are plus sides. There are plus sides to Swale and all other districts and boroughs within Kent. Plus sides on commerce and industry. There will be fantastic opportunities for businesses throughout Kent and for individuals to shine. So we need to make a decision. We need to move forward. I was not happy with the amendment, but I think we just need to put our hat in the ring, as has been said before, and get this done and dusted and over the line. Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Mayor, sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Booth. Anybody else on the substantive on this one? Final call. Wonderful stuff. So we're going to go back to Councillor Wise, who reserved his right.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. In seconding these recommendations, I'd like to thank all the group leaders for the discussions that they've been involved in so far, and I look forward to full involvement and participation of all 47 of us as we contribute to charting the course of the future for our borough. For me, unitaries in some ways are an opportunity to remedy the vast distance of the county council to our near 2 million residents of Kent. But from the limited discussions we've had with residents so far, and I hope there's more of this to come, the key thing for many of those is preserving our local identities and community involvement and the connection between them and their councillors. And that's something that really I hope that we can try and work through as we look at the options before us as we approach the November deadline. I think the main thing, as members have said, is that we are at the table as a borough, that we aren't being left behind and seeing things just done to us and our residents. And as I said, that we seek to involve and consult with our residents as much as possible along the way, and that's incumbent on all of us as councillors to do that. And that we see from the recommendations that we're putting forward something that is as flexible as possible to what emerges between now and November as those fuller business cases are worked on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Wise. And Councillor Gibson, would you like to sum up?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to say that I equally, as has been echoed throughout the chamber, through I think all this evening, is that we have that feat at the table. I don't think there's anybody that wouldn't suggest that. I would echo what Councillor Wise said about all of the leaders who have fed into this and will continue to feed into it. And you have an undertaking from me that all 47 members will be involved going forward, because, you know, quite clearly I think that really is important. That said, Friday's nearly upon us for that submission, and the 28th of November is the golden nugget. And if you ask me now as I stand here, hand on heart, to say even then will there be full agreement right across the county, I'm not really sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Agreement within a room would be a start, wouldn't it? Let's be honest. So all those in favour of the recommendations, please clearly raise your hands. Those against? Any abstentions? Wonderful. So that has carried. So we will implement those recommendations. Quick job for you guys over the next couple of days. The next agenda item is the allocation of committee seats. Please can members confirm that they have received the to follow report? Wonderful. I will now make reference to the drawing of lots between the Reform UK group and the Liberal Democrat group, which was administered by the Deputy Mayor and the Chief Executive prior to this meeting. The Reform UK won the right to continue having 15 seats. The Liberal Democrats therefore lose a seat and gift it to the Conservatives. I invite Councillor Tim Gibson to introduce the report and propose the recommendations.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The report sets out changes to the political balance, committee seat allocations and membership as a result of recent by-election and changes to the membership of political groups. The recommendations, again, you have before you, you've all seen them, so I don't intend to stand here and waste your time by reading those out. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. I then ask Councillor Bowen to second the...
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I second the paper and reserve my right.
Wonderful. So we will then head to Councillor Baldock.
Yeah, we don't accept it because we feel we've been stitched up.
Councillor Palmer.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I don't really have anything to say. Thank you.
Councillor Gibson.
I disagree with Councillor Baldock's use of the word stitched up, though I agree it is exceptionally mathematically harsh that 1.6304 is closer than 2.6087. But in the interest of mathematical honesty, having lost the drawing of lots, it is our group's intention to give up our second seat on the Economy and Property Committee to the Conservatives for as long as this redrawing lasts.
If we can get through one full council without one of these, it would be really helpful. Councillor Lehman.
I'll just get up to say that I'm delighted that our group remained unchanged throughout this entire painful process. And I suspect I will abstain if there's any kind of vote, unless it's one that requires unanimity, in which case we'll vote for. Thank you.
Wonderful stuff. So we're heading back to Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Very briefly, I get Councillor Baldock's comment. I don't think it's a case of stitch up. It's trying to work out an incredibly complicated procedure, and actually I applaud the work that Jo and her team have put into this, and other officers. It is a very complex, technical, number crunching exercise, which I certainly wouldn't want to do, and hopefully, I don't think Jo particularly wants to do any time again in the near future. But I don't. It is one of those things when you have democracy, there are winners, there are losers, and we've picked up a seat on economy and property. Just for yourselves, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bowen, and you'll recall from when I was previously group leader, I got very used to losing when it came to the number of seats on the mathematical formula. Councillor Tim Gibson, I ask you to sum up.
Consider it done, Mr Mayor. Thank you.
Wonderful. So those in favour of agreeing the political balance and the allocations of seats are following that. Please raise. Lovely. And those against? And any abstentions? Councillor Thompson. So you were for? Yep, sorry, I couldn't see your hand, that's all. That's fine. That one didn't require you, did it? Ladies and gents, we can therefore come to the end of the meeting. So I shall close that. Thanks very much all, and The parlour has been restocked if you do want a drink after that not quite so heavy meeting.